So I'm going to start with the first question that's in there. We have it from Erin. And her dog Penny's a success story for microbiome restorative therapy. So Dr. Margot Roman talked all about this today. If you haven't checked it out, this is an amazing fecal transplant therapy. It's what it's the other word for it. And a lot of us are using that for our patients. And it looks like Erin's dog Penny had a health crisis, which we realized was related to overuse of antibiotics when she had recurrent urinary tract infections. So for people who don't have access to a veterinarian using MBRT, so that's that microbiome restorative therapy, what would you recommend? So Dr. Odette, I'll have you kind of go through some of the things, the resources that you would look at if you didn't have access to this. I know you already use a lot of this in your practice, but let's say if you couldn't access, maybe for pet parents across the world that may not have access to this type of therapy, what would you say?
Well, I mean, definitely in the US, you can use Animal Biome. They have the capsules. They have fecal capsules, which is basically poop in a capsule. They freeze dry it and put it in there. And I think they do send it all over the world, although there are some countries where they are not allowed to send it to. But I've talked to people from Hong Kong, from Thailand, and some other places, Singapore, and they've been able to actually order the capsules and have them shipped over there. There are probably also ways, if you have people in the US where, Animal Biome, the company Animal Biome is in the US, they may be able to send it to a friend in the US, and then your friend can mail it. So that there are some ways around it. You just have to kind of look at the whole not immigration, but immigrating poop. And Animal Biome, they would be very good at helping you out with ways to do that as well, because they deal with that all the time. I mean, even though they're located in California, they're really more of an international company because they're shipping things all over the world. And so they would, definitely be the best ones to help you out with that as well. And then if you're in the US, you can also order fecal capsules from Dr. Roman from her practice. That would have to go through a vet, though, because that's a prescription. So that's actually then the raw poop that's put in a capsule, so it's not processed, not freeze-dried or anything. So that's the possibility as well. And if your veterinarian can do fecal enemas, they can also do fecal transplants, because it's really no different. All they need is some fecal matter, some saline, strainer, and they can mix it up and then squirt it in through a little tube into a dog. So it's really not rocket science. It's very easy to do. And there are a lot of veterinarians, traditional vets as well, who are doing fecal transplants. I was at VMX, which is a big veterinary conference, mostly conventional, a little bit of holistic lectures as well. And that was that was before COVID started, so a couple of years ago. And I was there with Animal Biome at their booth, and I was very surprised how many veterinarians, traditional ones, were already using fecal transplant. So it's much more commonly available, but I would certainly do a little bit of questioning regarding what kind of fecal matter and that's sort of thing, and what the animals are eating, and that's certainly something that you want to ask. But I'm sure Dr. Roman covered all of that today in her talk. If you haven't listened to it, I haven't, but I've heard her talk before. I've met her, and she actually brought some poop to Chicago via airplane one time. So definitely want to listen to her talk.
So with her interview that we had, she definitely went through all of that and the importance of exactly what you're talking about, like the stool quality and how she raises her animals and how they really don't come into contact with chemicals and toxins and things like that as much as you can. Now, you can't always avoid all of that stuff, but that's gonna help tremendously. And she also talks about ozone therapy too, to prep the terrain, so that way it tends to work a little bit better because of the biofilms that can be present. So I know ozone therapy isn't as common, so I think at least starting with that microbiome therapy. And I agree with you. I think the Animal Biome, they do ship. They have great customer service too. So calling and talking to them. I'm not sure about bringing stool samples in this way to Animal Biome and having them test from outside of the U.S. I think there is a limitation there potentially. I've heard that from some of my clients that are outside of the U.S. But looking at that, and if you can't do microbiome therapy, there's so many other tips that we're talking about through this gut health summit. So making sure they're on the right food, making sure we can use foods that are prebiotics, we can use other types of probiotics, knowing that they're not going to have as much impact as actually putting in the strains from the stool. But there's a lot of things that you can do, and it's that combination of different treatments that are going to make the biggest impact for your pet.